The letter trembled in Emma Reynolds's hands as the stagecoach rumbled toward Laredo, Texas. April 1875, and her entire life packed into one trunk, 3 small children sleeping against her on the hard wooden seat. The town loomed ahead, salvation or another mistake. She couldn't afford to make another. "Ma, are we there yet?" Daniel, her oldest at 8 years, rubbed sleep from his eyes. His face was smudged with the dust of 4 days' travel. "Almost, sweetheart." Emma smoothed his dark hair, so like his father's. The father who died in a mine collapse, leaving her with 3 children, mounting debts and nowhere to turn. Just a little longer. 5-year-old Sarah stirred next, followed by little Thomas, barely 3 and clinging to a wooden horse that was his most prized possession. Emma gathered them close, trying to calm her racing heart. What kind of man would Wade Kincaid be? His letters had been straightforward, even kind. A rancher with a spread outside Laredo who needed a wife. She'd been honest, told him she was a widow with 3 children. His response had been simple: "I need a family as much as you need a home." The stagecoach lurched to a stop, and Emma's stomach knotted. Through the window, she could see a dusty main street lined with wooden buildings. Laredo was bigger than she'd expected, a proper town with a hotel, saloon, and general store. People moved about their business under the hot Texas sun. "Come along, children," Emma said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "Remember your manners." The driver opened the door, extending his hand to help her down. Emma stepped onto Texas soil for the first time, holding Thomas on her hip while Daniel and Sarah clung to her skirts. The journey from Pennsylvania had been long and grueling, but they had made it. "Mrs. Reynolds?" A deep voice called from her left. Emma turned to see a tall man approaching. Wade Kincaid was not what she had expected. His letters had suggested someone older, perhaps gruff and weathered. The man before her couldn't be much past 30, with sun-bronzed skin, keen blue eyes, and sandy hair under a wide-brimmed hat. He moved with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own skin, though she detected a hesitancy in his approach. "Mr. Kincaid?" Emma asked, her voice steadier than she felt. He nodded, stopping a respectful distance away. "Yes, madam." His eyes moved from her to the children, widening slightly. Emma's heart sank. Of course she had told him about the children in her letters, but seeing 3 young ones in the flesh was different from reading about them on paper. She steeled herself for rejection, already calculating how many nights they could stay at the hotel with her dwindling funds. But then Wade Kincaid smiled a slow, genuine smile that transformed his face and crouched down to eye level with Daniel. "And who might you be, young man?" he asked. Daniel stood straighter. "Daniel Reynolds, sir. I'm 8. "Mighty pleased to meet you, Daniel." Wade offered his hand, which Daniel shook solemnly. Sarah peeked out from behind Emma's skirts. "I'm Sarah. I'm 5. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Miss Sarah." Wade tipped his hat to her, earning a shy smile. Thomas buried his face against Emma's neck, but Wade didn't seem to mind. He stood, meeting Emma's eyes. "You've had a long journey," he said. "I've got the wagon just down the street. We can get your luggage and head to the ranch, unless you'd rather rest in town first." "I think we'd prefer to go straight to the ranch, if that's acceptable," Emma replied. She wanted to see her new home, to know what she had committed herself to. Wade nodded. "I figured as much. I'll get your trunk." As he moved to speak with the stagecoach driver, Emma felt a moment of panic. She was really doing this, marrying a stranger, bringing her children to a new life in a wild land. What if it was all a terrible mistake? Wade returned, easily hoisting her trunk onto his shoulder. "This way, Mrs. Reynolds." They followed him down the street, drawing curious glances from townspeople. Emma held her head high, though she felt like a spectacle. The wagon was well maintained, with a team of 2 strong horses. Wade secured her trunk and then turned to help them up. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to Thomas. After a moment's hesitation, Emma handed her youngest to him. Wade gently settled the boy on the wagon seat, then helped Sarah up. Daniel insisted on climbing up himself. Finally, Wade offered his hand to Emma. His palm was calloused but warm, his grip secure as he helped her onto the seat. The simple contact sent an unexpected tremor through her. She hadn't been touched by a man since Richard died 2 years ago. Wade climbed up beside them, settling Thomas between them. He took up the reins and clicked to the horses. "It's about an hour to the ranch," he said as they pulled away from Laredo. "Not too far." Emma nodded, uncertain what to say now that they were alone. The children were uncharacteristically quiet, taking in the new landscape with wide eyes. "I hope you don't mind," Wade said after a few minutes, "but I've made arrangements for us to be married tomorrow. Pastor Wilson can come out to the ranch, unless you prefer to wait longer." Emma swallowed. "No, tomorrow's fine. That's what we agreed upon." Wade glanced at her, then back to the road. "Mrs. Reynolds, please call me Emma." "Emma." He seemed to test the name. "I want you to know that if you change your mind, I'll understand. I can set you up in town until you decide what you want to do." The offer surprised her. "Are you having second thoughts, Mr. Kincaid?" "Wade," he corrected. "And no, I'm not, but I reckon this is harder for you than for me. You're the one who's traveled across the country with 3 little ones." He looked down at Thomas, who was now watching him curiously. "I just want you to know you have a choice." Emma studied his profile, the straight nose, the firm jaw softened by a day's growth of beard. There was kindness in his face, and honesty. "Thank you for saying that, but I've made my choice. My children need a home, and she paused. "I need a fresh start." Wade nodded. "Then I'll do my best to make it a good one." As the wagon rolled through the Texas landscape, Emma felt something she hadn't expected: hope. Perhaps this wouldn't be merely an arrangement of convenience after all. The children grew more animated as they traveled, pointing out jackrabbits, cacti, and a distant herd of cattle. Wade answered their questions patiently, telling them about the land and the ranch. "Will I get to ride a horse?" Daniel asked eagerly. "When you're ready," Wade said. "We'll start with something gentle." "I want to ride too," Sarah insisted. "Then you shall, Miss Sarah," Wade promised. "Every ranch child needs to know how to ride." Emma watched this interaction with growing relief. Wade seemed genuinely good with children, not just tolerating them. The landscape changed subtly as they traveled, becoming greener as they approached a creek. Finally, Wade pointed ahead. "There it is, Kincaid Ranch." Emma leaned forward, taking in her first sight of her new home. A large 2-story house sat nestled against a rise with several outbuildings nearby. A barn, bunkhouse, and what looked like a smokehouse. The house itself was impressive, painted white with a broad porch wrapping around the front. Not a crude cabin, but a proper home. "It's beautiful," she said, meaning it. Wade looked pleased. "My father built the original house. I added onto it over the years." He paused. "There's plenty of room for everyone." As they approached, Emma noticed a woman coming out onto the porch. She was older, with gray-streaked dark hair and a practical dress. "That's Mrs. Abigail Curtis," Wade explained. "She's been helping me get the house ready. Comes in from town a few days a week to cook and clean." The wagon pulled up to the house, and Wade set the brake before jumping down. Mrs. Curtis approached as he helped the children down. "So these are the little ones," she said, her weathered face creasing into a smile. "Welcome to Kincaid Ranch. Children?" Emma found herself being assessed by the older woman's sharp eyes. Mrs. Curtis nodded, seemingly satisfied with what she saw. "Mrs. Curtis, this is Mrs. Reynolds, Emma," Wade introduced, "and Daniel, Sarah, and Thomas. Pleased to meet you all." Mrs. Curtis bent slightly to address the children. "I've got fresh cookies in the kitchen if your mother says it's all right." 3 pairs of hopeful eyes turned to Emma. She smiled. "That sounds wonderful, thank you." Mrs. Curtis led the children inside, leaving Emma and Wade alone for the first time. "She seems kind," Emma observed. "She is. Straightforward, but kind. Her husband died in the war, and her son runs the general store in town now. She's been a godsend since my mother passed." Emma nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of the journey. Wade must have noticed, because he gestured toward the house. "Would you like to see inside? Get settled before dinner?" "Yes, please." The interior of the house was clean and well furnished, with solid, practical pieces and touches of comfort curtains at the windows, a colorful quilt over the back of a sofa, books on shelves. It smelled of beeswax polish and the cookies Mrs. Curtis had baked. Wade showed her to a large bedroom on the second floor. "I thought you might like this room. It gets the morning sun." Emma stepped inside, noting the four-poster bed with its fresh linens, the washstand with a china pitcher and bowl, a wardrobe, and a rocking chair by the window. It was more luxurious than anything she'd had since her marriage to Richard. "It's lovely," she said softly. Wade shifted, seeming uncertain for the first time. "There's a room across the hall for the boys and a smaller one next to it for Sarah, after we're married if you'd prefer different arrangements." He left the sentence unfinished, and Emma felt her cheeks warm. Of course there would be that aspect of marriage. It had been part of her calculation when she'd agreed to this arrangement. She would provide companionship and fulfill a wife's duties in exchange for security for her children. "This will be fine," she said quickly. "Thank you." Wade nodded. "I'll bring up your trunk and let you get settled. Dinner's at 6. After he left, Emma sank onto the edge of the bed, finally allowing herself a moment of private emotion. Tears sprang to her eyes, not of sadness, but of relief. The ranch was lovely, far better than she had dared hope. Wade Kincaid seemed to be a good man. Her children would have space to run, food to eat, and a solid roof over their heads. She had made the right choice. Emma washed her face and changed into a fresh dress before going downstairs to find her children. They were in the kitchen with Mrs. Curtis, who was showing Sarah how to roll out dough while the boys ate cookies at the table. "There you are," Mrs. Curtis said. "Feeling better after your journey?" "Much, thank you." Emma smiled at her children, who looked happier than they had in months. "Wade's out checking on something in the barn," Mrs. Curtis informed her. "He'll be back shortly. In the meantime, can I get you some tea?" Emma accepted gratefully, and they fell into easy conversation. Mrs. Curtis was forthright but not intrusive, telling Emma about Laredo and the surrounding ranches without prying into her past. "Wade's a good man," Mrs. Curtis said as they prepared dinner together. "His father was harsh, but Wade takes after his mother. Kind heart, steady hand." Emma appreciated the older woman's tacit approval of her decision. "How long have you known him?" "Since he was born. I was friends with his mother." Mrs. Curtis's eyes grew distant. "She was a fine woman. Would have loved to see grandchildren in this house." The sound of the boots on the porch announced Wade's return. He came in, having washed up outside, his hair damp and his shirt sleeves rolled up. "Something smells good," he said, smiling at the domestic scene before him. Dinner was a pleasant affair, with the children gradually losing their shyness. Wade asked Daniel about his interests, listened to Sarah's chatter about the kitten Mrs. Curtis had shown her in the barn, and even coaxed a few words from Thomas. After the meal, Wade excused himself to speak with his foreman, while Mrs. Curtis helped Emma settle the children for the night. The bedrooms Wade had prepared were perfect. The boys' room had 2 small beds and a chest for their clothes, while Sarah's had a bed with a quilt that matched the curtains. "Mr. Wade made those shelves special," Mrs. Curtis told Sarah, pointing to small shelves on the wall. "For your treasures." By the time Emma came back downstairs, Mrs. Curtis had departed for her cottage on the edge of the property, and Wade was sitting on the porch, a cup of coffee in hand. "Children all settled?" he asked as she joined him. "Yes, they fell asleep almost immediately." Emma sat in the chair next to his. "It's been a long journey." "For you most of all, I expect." They sat in companionable silence for a few minutes, looking out at the stars. The night was cool, with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of sage. "Why did you decide to advertise for a wife?" Emma asked finally. It was a bold question, but if they were to be married tomorrow, she wanted to understand him better. Wade didn't seem offended. "Practical reasons at first. A ranch this size needs a woman's touch. I've been alone since my mother died 3 years ago." He paused. "But if I'm honest, it's more than that. I've watched my friends build families, have children. I want that too." "And there was no one in Laredo who caught your eye?" Wade's lips quirked. Laredo's not overflowing with unmarried women of suitable age, and the few who are, he shrugged, they're looking for shopkeepers and bankers, not ranchers who come home smelling of cattle. Emma nodded, understanding. And you weren't concerned about taking on another man's children? Wade looked at her directly then. Children need a home, Emma. Who their father was doesn't change that. He set his cup down. May I ask you something now? Of course. What happened to your husband? Emma had expected the question. Richard was a mining engineer in Pennsylvania. There was an accident, a shaft collapsed. He and 11 other men were killed. She swallowed. That was 2 years ago. I tried to make it work, taking in sewing, but with 3 children. It must have been difficult. It was. When I saw your advertisement, it seemed like Providence, a chance for a new beginning. Wade nodded. That's what I'm hoping for, too. He stood. We should both get some rest. Tomorrow will be a busy day. Emma rose as well. Good night, Wade. Good night, Emma. As she climbed the stairs to her room, Emma reflected on the strange path her life had taken. Tomorrow she would marry a man she barely knew, in a place far from everything familiar. Yet, somehow, it felt right. The wedding took place the following afternoon on the porch of the ranch house. Pastor Wilson rode out from Laredo bringing his wife as a witness. Mrs. Curtis had helped Emma dress in her best gown, dark blue with lace at the collar and cuffs. It wasn't a traditional wedding dress, but it was clean and becoming. The children had been scrubbed until they shone, Daniel in his only good shirt, Sarah in a dress Emma had made just before they left Pennsylvania, and Thomas looking solemn in his little trousers and shirt. Wade wore a clean white shirt, dark trousers, and a vest. He'd trimmed his beard and combed his hair, and when Emma came downstairs, his eyes warmed with appreciation. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. They exchanged vows, promising to honor and cherish one another. When Pastor Wilson pronounced them husband and wife, Wade kissed her gently on the cheek. It was a chaste gesture, respectful of their new relationship in the presence of the children. Mrs. Curtis had prepared a wedding dinner, and they all sat down to celebrate the pastor and his wife, Mrs. Curtis, Emma, and Wade, and the children. There was roast chicken, fresh bread, vegetables from the garden, and a cake for dessert. To the Kincaid family, Pastor Wilson toasted, raising his glass. Emma glanced at Wade, wondering how he felt about his new instant family. He caught her look and smiled, reaching over to take her hand. To our family, he said softly. Complete at last. After the pastor and his wife departed, Mrs. Curtis helped clean up and then tactfully announced she would be returning to her cottage. I'll be back in the morning to help with breakfast, she told Emma, but I think you folks need some time to settle in. Once she was gone, Emma found herself alone with Wade and the children. There was an awkward moment of uncertainty until Wade cleared his throat. I thought perhaps we might all sit on the porch for a while, he suggested. I could tell you about the stars. They're particularly bright tonight. The children, who would normally be preparing for bed at this hour, were excited by the special treat. They all moved to the porch, where Wade pointed out constellations, telling stories about each one. That's the Big Dipper, he explained, pointing. The cowboys use it to find their way home if they're out on the range at night. Like we found our way here? Sarah asked sleepily. Wade glanced at Emma, something warm in his eyes. Yes, just like that. Eventually, the children began to droop, and Emma took them upstairs to bed. When she returned, Wade was still on the porch, looking out at the night. They went down easily, she said, joining him. They've had a big day, big changes. Emma nodded. They seem to be adjusting well. They like you. I like them too. Wade turned to face her. Emma, I want you to know that I meant what I said earlier. Our family is complete now. I don't want you to think that I view the children as a burden I'm tolerating to have a wife. The sincerity in his voice moved her. Thank you for saying that. They're my world, Wade. Everything I've done since Richard died has been for them. I understand. He hesitated. I know this is all very new. We've only just met, really. I want you to feel comfortable here. to make this your home. If you need time to adjust to our marriage, I understand that too." Emma realized he was giving her space, not pressuring her about the physical aspects of their new relationship. The consideration touched her deeply. "Thank you," she said softly. "It's been a long time since anyone has put my comfort first." Wade smiled, a hint of something tender in his expression. "That's what husbands are supposed to do, isn't it?" "So I've heard, though not all live up to it." "Well, I'll try my best." He offered his hand. "Shall we go in? Tomorrow comes early on a ranch." Emma placed her hand in his, feeling the same spark she'd noticed the day before. "Yes, let's go in." They walked inside together, husband and wife in name, if not yet in all ways. As they climbed the stairs, Emma felt a curious mixture of nervousness and anticipation. At the top, Wade paused. "Good night, Emma," he said softly, then leaned in and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. "Sleep well." She watched him walk to his room at the end of the hall, surprised and touched by his restraint. Many men would have claimed their rights immediately. Wade Kincaid, it seemed, was not many men. The days fell into a rhythm as April turned to May. Emma learned the routine of the ranch, taking over the household management from Mrs. Curtis, who still came 3 times a week to help. The children thrived in the open spaces, with Daniel following Wade whenever allowed, learning about horses and cattle. Sarah discovered a love of the garden, helping Emma plant vegetables and flowers. Even little Thomas grew more confident, toddling after the ranch dog and collecting interesting rocks and sticks. Wade was true to his word, treating the children as his own. He began teaching Daniel to ride, started building a dollhouse for Sarah, and always had time to listen to Thomas's attempts at conversation. He was patient and kind, never raising his voice even when the children tested boundaries as children do. With Emma, he was unfailingly considerate. They spent their evenings talking, getting to know each other. He told her about growing up on the ranch, about his parents, about his dreams for the future. She shared stories of her childhood in Philadelphia, her marriage to Richard, her struggles after his death. "I wasn't raised to be practical," she admitted one evening. "My father was a professor. I learned literature and music, not how to survive without a man's protection." "Yet you did survive," Wade pointed out. "You kept your children fed and together. That takes courage." Emma was learning that Wade saw strength where she had only seen desperation. It was changing how she viewed herself. Their physical relationship progressed slowly. A touch of hands as they passed the salt, his hand at the small of her back as they walked, a kiss goodnight that gradually moved from her forehead to her lips. Emma found herself looking forward to these moments, her body responding to his proximity in ways that both surprised and pleased her. 2 weeks after the wedding, a spring storm rolled in, bringing thunder that frightened the children. Emma was comforting them in the boys' room when Wade appeared in the doorway. "Everything all right?" he asked, his hair tousled from sleep. "Just a little scared of the thunder," Emma explained, rubbing Thomas's back as he clung to her. "I used to be scared of storms too," Wade said, sitting on the edge of Daniel's bed. "My mother taught me to count between the lightning and the thunder. The longer the count, the further away the storm is." The children latched onto this idea eagerly, and soon they were counting together with each flash and boom. As the storm moved away and the counts grew longer, the fear subsided. "See? It's moving on," Wade assured them. "Nothing to be afraid of now." When the children were finally settled, Wade and Emma slipped out into the hallway. "Thank you," Emma said. "You're very good with them." Wade smiled, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. The simple gesture sent warmth spreading through her. "They make it easy," he said. "They're good children." They stood there in the dim hallway, the storm still rumbling in the distance. Emma was acutely aware of his nearness, of the thin fabric of her nightgown, of the way his eyes lingered on her face. "Emma," he said softly, his voice deeper than usual. "May I kiss you? Properly, I mean." Her heart quickened. "Yes." He stepped closer, one hand coming up to cup her cheek while the other settled at her waist. Slowly, giving her time to withdraw if she wished, he lowered his mouth to hers. This was not the chaste kiss of their wedding or the gentle goodnight kisses they'd shared. This was a man kissing a woman he desired. Emma responded instinctively, her hands moving to his chest, feeling the solid warmth of him through his nightshirt. The kiss deepened, and she felt herself melting against him, weeks of growing attraction crystallizing into this moment. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing faster. Wade rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to do that for days," he confessed. "Why didn't you?" she whispered. "I wanted you to be sure, to know me better before." Emma rose on tiptoe and kissed him again, briefly but with feeling. "I'm sure, Wade." His eyes darkened. "Emma, if you come to my room tonight, I won't be able to show the same restraint I have been." She met his gaze steadily. "I don't want you to." Wade took a deep breath. "Give me a few minutes," he said, his voice husky. "Then come to me, if you're certain." Emma nodded, and he reluctantly released her, disappearing down the hall to his room. She returned to her bedroom, heart racing. This was happening faster than she had expected, yet it felt right. Wade had earned her trust with his kindness to her children and his patience with her, and she wanted him. That was the simple truth. The attraction she had felt from the beginning had grown into something more: respect, affection, and yes, desire. She brushed her hair, straightened her nightgown, and took a steadying breath. Then she walked down the hall to her husband's room. The next morning, Emma woke in Wade's bed, his arm draped across her waist. For a moment she was disoriented, then the memories of the night came flooding back. The tenderness in Wade's touch, the fire he had awakened in her body, the connection that had felt both new and somehow familiar. Wade stirred beside her, his eyes opening to meet hers. "Good morning," he said softly, a smile spreading across his face. "Good morning." Emma felt a blush rising to her cheeks. He leaned in to kiss her, then pulled back slightly. "Any regrets?" "None," she assured him. "And you?" Wade's answer was to kiss her again, more deeply this time. Emma responded eagerly, her body already remembering the pleasures of the night before. A sudden pounding of small feet in the hallway broke them apart. "The children," Emma gasped. Wade chuckled. "I locked the door." Sure enough, the doorknob rattled, followed by Daniel's voice. "Wade, are you awake? Can we go see the new foal today?" "I'll be out shortly, Daniel," Wade called. "Go on down to breakfast. Tell Mrs. Curtis I'll be there soon." They heard Daniel's footsteps retreating, and Emma relaxed against the pillows. "I should go back to my room, get dressed." Wade propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her with warm eyes. "Or you could stay here. Move your things in. Be my wife in truth as well as name." Emma reached up to touch his face, feeling the stubble on his jaw. "I'd like that." He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "I know this started as an arrangement, Emma, but I want you to know that I care for you, not just as the mother of my ready-made family, but as the woman you are." The words touched her deeply. "I care for you too, Wade, more than I expected to." They shared one more kiss before the practical demands of the day pulled them from bed. As Emma slipped back to her room to dress, she marveled at how quickly life could change. A month ago, she had been a desperate widow with few options. Now she was the wife of a good man, mistress of a prosperous ranch, and for the first time in years, truly hopeful about the future. Summer arrived, bringing long, hot days and the busy work of the ranch. Emma settled fully into her role as Wade's wife and partner. She managed the household efficiently, put up preserves from the garden, and even learned to help with some of the ranch tasks. Wade, in turn, proved to be an attentive husband and a patient father figure to the children. Daniel flourished under Wade's guidance, learning to ride, to mend fences, to understand the rhythms of ranch life. Sarah became Wade's little shadow in the evenings, climbing onto his lap with books for him to read. Thomas, now talking more, had taken to calling Wade Pa, a development that had brought unexpected tears to Wade's eyes the first time it happened. "He doesn't remember Richard," Emma had explained softly. "Is it all right?" "More than all right," Wade had assured her, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm honored." Their relationship deepened as the weeks passed. Wade was a considerate lover, attentive to Emma's needs and desires. But more than that, he became her confidant, her partner in all things. They talked about the future of the ranch, about the children's education, about their hopes and dreams. In late June, Emma began to suspect she might be pregnant. She kept the suspicion to herself at first, wanting to be certain before sharing such momentous news. But as the symptoms persisted, the morning sickness, the tenderness in her breasts, the fatigue, she knew it was time to tell Wade. She chose a quiet evening when the children were in bed. They were sitting on the porch, enjoying the cooler air after a scorching day. "Wade," she began, "I have something to tell you." He turned to her, his expression open. "What is it?" "I believe I'm going to have a baby. Our baby." Wade's face transformed with wonder. "Emma, are you sure?" She nodded. "As sure as I can be without a doctor's confirmation. It would be due in February, I think." Wade moved to kneel before her chair, taking her hands in his. "A baby," he said, his voice filled with awe. "Our child." The joy in his eyes brought tears to Emma's. "You're happy then?" "Happy doesn't begin to cover it." He pressed a kiss to her hands. "I love you, Emma. I think I've loved you since you stepped down from that stagecoach with 3 children and the courage to start over." It was the first time either of them had spoken of love, though Emma had felt it growing in her heart for weeks. "I love you too," she whispered. "So much." He gathered her into his arms, holding her as if she were infinitely precious. "Our family keeps growing," he murmured against her hair, "and I couldn't be more grateful." They shared the news with the children at breakfast the next day. Daniel took it in stride, practical even at his young age. "Where will the baby sleep?" he wanted to know. "We'll fix up the small room next to ours," Wade explained. "It'll be perfect for a nursery." Sarah was more excited, immediately volunteering to help take care of the baby. "I can read to it and help it learn to walk," she declared. Thomas didn't fully understand, but caught the excitement of the others. "Baby, come play with me?" he asked. "Not right away, sweetheart," Emma explained. "The baby will be very small at first, but as it grows, you'll be able to play together." The news spread quickly through the ranch and into town. Mrs. Curtis was particularly delighted, having taken a grandmotherly interest in the family. "I always knew Wade needed children in this house," she said to Emma as they put up peach preserves. "Now look at him, 3 stepchildren he dotes on, and a baby on the way. The Lord works in mysterious ways." Indeed. Emma often marveled at the path that had led her to Laredo and to Wade. What had begun as a desperate gamble had blossomed into a love deeper than any she had known before. The pregnancy progressed well, though the Texas summer heat was challenging. Wade fussed over her, insisting she rest during the hottest part of the day and bringing her cool drinks. The children, too, were protective, with Daniel solemnly carrying water from the well so she wouldn't have to lift the heavy bucket, and Sarah arranging wildflowers by Emma's bed to make the baby happy. In September, a letter arrived that disrupted their peaceful life. It was from Emma's brother-in-law, William Reynolds, Richard's older brother. "He wants to visit," Emma told Wade, scanning the letter with growing concern. "He says he wants to see the children to ensure they're being properly provided for." Wade frowned. "Did he offer any help when Richard died?" "No, he attended the funeral but made it clear he had his own family to support." Emma bit her lip. "Wade, I'm worried. William was always controlling. He never approved of me, thought Richard married beneath him." Wade took the letter, reading it carefully. "He can visit if he wants," he said finally. "This is your home, Emma. Our home. The children are well cared for and loved. You have nothing to be ashamed of or worried about." Emma wished she could share his confidence, but memories of William's disapproval made her uneasy. Still, she wrote back inviting him to visit in October when the weather would be more pleasant. William Reynolds arrived on the first Tuesday in October, traveling by stagecoach to Laredo where Wade met him with the wagon. Emma waited anxiously at the ranch, making sure everything was perfect, the house spotless, the children scrubbed and in their best clothes, a special dinner prepared. When the wagon pulled up, Emma went out to the porch, the children beside her. William looked much as she remembered, tall like Richard had been, but sterner, with a perpetual frown creasing his brow. He was a successful banker in Philadelphia, prosperous and proud of it. "Emma," he greeted her formally, then turned his attention to the children. "Daniel, you've grown. Sarah, Thomas." His tone was not unkind, but neither was it warm. "Welcome to our home, William," Emma said, determined to be gracious. "Please come inside. You must be tired after your journey." William followed them into the house, his critical eye taking in everything. Emma could see him noting the comfortable furnishings, the cleanliness, the signs of prosperity. "Your ranch is impressive, Mr. Kincaid," he said as they sat down to dinner. "Thank you," Wade replied evenly. "We've been fortunate." The meal proceeded with stilted conversation. William asked the children about their schooling Emma had been teaching them at home, though they planned to send Daniel to the school in Laredo when it reopened after harvest. "And what of their religious education?" William pressed. Richard was raised with strict Presbyterian values. "We attend church in Laredo regularly," Emma assured him. "Pastor Wilson has been very kind to our family." William nodded, though his expression remained skeptical. After dinner, when the children had been excused, he finally revealed his true purpose. "I've come with a proposal," he said, setting down his coffee cup. "I believe it would be in the best interests of the children, particularly Daniel, as Richard's son and heir, to return to Philadelphia with me. My wife and I can provide the proper education and opportunities that they deserve." Emma felt as though she'd been struck. "You want to take my children?" "Not all of them necessarily," William amended. "Daniel, certainly. He should be raised in the environment his father would have wanted for him. Sarah perhaps as well, though girls require less formal education." Wade's hand found Emma's under the table, squeezing reassuringly. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, his voice controlled but with an edge of steel, "I appreciate your concern for your brother's children. But they are well cared for here. They have a home, a family, and all the opportunities they need." William's expression hardened. "With all due respect, Mr. Kincaid, you've been their stepfather for 5 months? I am their blood relative. I knew Richard's wishes for his children." "Richard's wishes were for his children to be happy and loved," Emma said, finding her voice. "They are both here. I won't separate them from each other or from me." "Consider their futures," William insisted. "What kind of prospects will they have out here? Daniel could follow in Richard's footsteps, become an engineer or a banker. What will he become on a cattle ranch in Texas?" "Whatever he chooses," Wade replied firmly. "He'll learn the value of hard work, honesty, and family. He'll have land and a legacy if he wants it, or the education to pursue another path if that's his choice." The tension in the room was palpable. William looked from Wade to Emma, his disapproval evident. "I had hoped you would be reasonable, Emma, for the children's sake." "I am being reasonable," Emma countered, her hand protectively covering her slightly rounded abdomen. "My children are staying with me and Wade. We are a family." William noticed the gesture, and his eyes narrowed. "I see. Another child on the way. How convenient." Wade stood abruptly, his patience clearly at an end. "Mr. Reynolds, you are a guest in our home, but I won't allow you to insult my wife. Emma is a wonderful mother to all our children, those she brought with her, and the one we're expecting. If you can't respect that, perhaps it's best you return to Laredo tonight. I can arrange a room at the hotel." William appeared taken aback by Wade's directness. He looked at Emma, perhaps expecting her to contradict her husband, but she remained silent, her hand still in Wade's. After a tense moment, William sighed. "I apologize if I've given offense. That wasn't my intention. I only want what's best for Richard's children." "So do we," Emma said softly. "They're happy here, William. Truly happy, perhaps for the first time since their father died." Please try to see that." The rest of William's visit passed in strained politeness. He spent the next day observing the children, watching as Daniel proudly showed him the calf he was raising, as Sarah explained her garden, as Thomas chattered about the kittens in the barn. Despite himself, William seemed affected by their obvious happiness and attachment to Wade. On his final evening, as they sat on the porch after the children were in bed, William finally spoke more openly. "I misjudged the situation," he admitted reluctantly. "The children do seem settled here." "They are," Emma assured him. "Wade has been everything they needed: patient, kind, loving." William nodded slowly. "Richard would have wanted them to be happy. That much is true." He turned to Wade. "You'll ensure they receive a proper education? That Daniel has the opportunity for college if he shows the aptitude?" "Of course," Wade promised. "Emma and I have already discussed it. We want all our children to have the chance to pursue their dreams, whatever those might be." William seemed satisfied with this. "Very well, I won't press the issue further." He hesitated, then added, "You may write to me if you ever need anything for them. Financially, I mean." It was as close to an apology as he was likely to offer. Emma accepted it with grace. "Thank you, William, and they would enjoy letters from you, I'm sure. You're their only connection to their father's family." The next morning, Wade drove William back to Laredo to catch the eastbound stage. When he returned, Emma was waiting anxiously. "He's gone," Wade confirmed, gathering her into his arms. "And he gave his word he won't try to take the children." Emma sagged against him in relief. "I was so afraid." "I would never have let it happen," Wade promised fiercely. "Those children are ours now, Emma, ours to love and raise together." She looked up at him, seeing the determination in his eyes, and knew it was true. Wade Kincaid might not be the children's blood relation, but he was their father in all the ways that truly mattered. Life returned to normal after William's departure. The autumn brought cooler temperatures and the cattle roundup, keeping Wade busy from dawn until dusk. Emma's pregnancy continued to progress well, her belly growing rounder as the baby within became more active. In November, Wade took Emma and the children into Laredo for the town's Thanksgiving celebration. It was the first time Emma had spent much time in town, having been too busy with the ranch and too tired from her pregnancy to make the trip more than a few times since her arrival. The townspeople greeted them warmly. Wade was well respected in the community, and his new family was a subject of friendly curiosity. Emma found herself welcomed by the other ranchers' wives, who offered advice about the baby and promised to organize a quilting bee for the new arrival. "You've done Wade a world of good," Sophia Wilson, the pastor's wife, told Emma as they watched the children playing games with the other youngsters. "He was so alone after his mother died. Now look at him." Emma followed her gaze to where Wade stood talking with several men, occasionally glancing over to check on the children. There was an ease to him now that hadn't been there when she first met him. "He's done us a world of good, too," Emma replied honestly. "I don't know what would have become of us without him." The celebration included a community meal, games for the children, and dancing in the town square. Wade proved to be a surprisingly good dancer, leading Emma in a gentle waltz that accommodated her growing belly. "You never told me you could dance," she teased as they moved together. "Didn't have much cause to until now," he replied, smiling down at her. "My mother insisted I learn, said every gentleman should know how to dance with a lady." She was right. Emma rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. "I wish I could have met her." "She would have loved you," Wade said softly. "And the children. She always wanted a house full of grandchildren." They returned home that evening, tired but content. As they prepared for bed, Emma felt a particularly strong kick from the baby. "Oh!" she exclaimed, her hand going to her belly. Wade was at her side instantly. "What is it? Are you all right?" "Yes, just a strong kick." She took his hand, placing it where she had felt the movement. "Wait! There!" Wade's expression of wonder as he felt their child move was something Emma knew she would remember forever. "That's amazing," he whispered. "Hello there, little one." He knelt before her, pressing a gentle kiss to her rounded abdomen. "We can't wait to meet you," he told the baby. "You have a mama and a papa and 3 siblings who are going to love you so much." Emma's eyes filled with tears at the tenderness of the moment. As Wade stood and drew her into his arms, she marveled again at how completely her life had transformed in the space of 7 months. The desperate gamble she had taken in answering Wade's advertisement had led to this, a true home, a loving husband, and a future full of promise. Winter settled over the ranch, bringing colder temperatures but little snow. December was a time of celebration, with Christmas approaching. Wade surprised the children by bringing home a small pine tree, which they decorated with paper chains, dried berries, and small carved wooden ornaments that Wade made in the evenings. "We never had a Christmas tree before," Sarah confided to Wade as they worked on the decorations. "No? Well, we'll have one every year from now on," Wade promised. "It's a Kincaid family tradition." Emma watched from her rocking chair, hands resting on her belly, as Wade helped the children place the star he had carved on top of the tree. This would be their first Christmas as a family, and she was determined to make it special despite her limited energy. In the days leading up to Christmas, Emma and the children baked cookies and made small gifts. Wade disappeared into his workshop for hours at a time, working on secret projects. On Christmas Eve, they gathered in the parlor, the room warm from the fireplace and fragrant with the scent of the pine tree. "Time for presents," Wade announced to the children's delight. Daniel received a hand-tooled leather saddlebag with his initials on it, perfect for carrying his treasures when he rode with Wade. Sarah's gift was the dollhouse Wade had been working on since summer, complete with tiny furniture he had carved himself. For Thomas, there was a rocking horse, painted white with a real horsehair mane and tail. "It looks just like Star," Thomas exclaimed, referring to Wade's white mare. "That was the idea," Wade confirmed, helping the little boy onto the rocker. The children had made gifts as well. Daniel had whittled a simple but recognizable horse for Wade. Sarah had embroidered a handkerchief for Emma, and Thomas had helped Mrs. Curtis make peppermint candy. Finally, Wade handed Emma a small package wrapped in brown paper and tied with a ribbon. "What's this?" she asked, surprised. "Open it and see," he urged. Inside was a silver locket on a delicate chain. When Emma opened it, she found a tiny lock of hair from each of the children, carefully arranged. "I thought you might want to add a bit from the new baby when it arrives," Wade explained, "to keep all our children close to your heart." Tears filled Emma's eyes. "It's perfect," she whispered, leaning forward to kiss him. "Thank you." "I have something for you too," she said, reaching for a package beside her chair. Inside was a hand-knitted scarf in deep blue wool and a leather-bound journal. "For your thoughts," she explained. "You mentioned once that your father kept a journal of ranch business. I thought you might want to start your own tradition." Wade ran his hand over the smooth leather. "This is wonderful, Emma, thank you." He leaned in to kiss her again, then whispered in her ear, "Best Christmas I've ever had." As January arrived, bringing the coldest days of the year, Emma's time grew near. Wade had arranged for the doctor from Laredo to stay in town rather than returning to San Antonio, ensuring he would be available when needed. Mrs. Curtis came to stay at the ranch full-time, helping with the household and the children. On the morning of January 28th, Emma woke with the first pains. She had experienced this twice before, with Sarah and Thomas, and recognized the signs. Wade had already gone out to check on the cattle, the winter having been hard on the younger calves. "Mrs. Curtis," Emma called, making her way slowly downstairs. "I think it's time." The older woman sprang into action, sending Daniel to fetch his stepfather while she helped Emma back to bed and set water to boil. Wade returned in record time, his face pale with worry. "Emma, are you all right?" "I'm fine," she assured him, though another contraction made her wince. "But you should send for the doctor. This baby isn't going to wait much longer." Wade pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I'll go myself. Mrs. Curtis will stay with you. Daniel knows where to find me if anything changes." He rode hard into Laredo, returning with the doctor just as Emma's labor intensified. Doctor? Patterson examined her quickly, his manner professional and reassuring. Everything looks normal, Mrs. Kincaid. This isn't your first, I understand. My fourth, Emma confirmed, gritting her teeth against another contraction. But the first with my husband, Dr. Patterson nodded. Well, in my experience, fourth babies often come a bit quicker. I don't think we'll have a long wait. He was right. After 3 hours of increasingly intense labor, Emma gave birth to a healthy baby boy, his lusty cries filling the bedroom as Dr. Patterson cleaned him and placed him on Emma's chest. A son, Wade breathed, staring in wonder at the tiny red face. Emma, he's perfect. Emma cradled the infant, counting his fingers and toes as mothers have done since the beginning of time. He is, isn't he? Hello, little one. What shall we call him? Wade asked, gently touching the baby's dark hair, so like his own. I thought perhaps James, Emma suggested. After your father? Wade's eyes filled with emotion. You'd do that? Of course. He should be named for family. James Richard Kincaid, Wade said thoughtfully. A good, strong name. Emma smiled tiredly. Perfect. After Emma and the baby were cleaned up and settled, Wade brought the children in to meet their new brother. Daniel approached the bed cautiously, peering at the small bundle in Emma's arms. He's so tiny, he observed. You were that small once, too, Emma told him. Would you like to hold him? Daniel nodded solemnly, sitting in the chair beside the bed as Wade carefully transferred the baby to his arms, showing him how to support the head. Hello, James, Daniel said seriously. I'm your big brother. I'm going to teach you to ride and rope and everything else you need to know. Sarah was next, cooing over the baby's tiny fingers and the dark hair that already showed a tendency to curl. He's like a doll, but real, she exclaimed. Can I help take care of him, Mama? Of course, Emma assured her. I'll need lots of help. Thomas was most hesitant, unsure about this new addition who had taken his place as the baby of the family. But when James wrapped his tiny hand around Thomas's finger, a look of wonder crossed the little boy's face. Baby like me, he decided, leaning in to plant a sloppy kiss on his brother's forehead. As Emma watched her family gather around the newest member, her heart swelled with love. This moment, in this room. With these people, this was everything she had ever wanted but had feared might never be hers again after Richard died. Wade caught her eye over the children's heads, his expression full of love and gratitude. Our family, he mouthed silently. Emma nodded, tears of joy filling her eyes. Yes, their family. Complete at last. Spring returned to Texas, bringing wildflowers and new life to the ranch. James thrived, growing quickly as babies do, his dark eyes taking in the world with apparent fascination. The older children doted on him, Daniel proud in his role as oldest brother, Sarah mothering him almost as much as Emma did, and Thomas gradually adjusting to no longer being the youngest. In April, just as the bluebonnets were painting the hillsides, they celebrated 1 year since Emma and the children had arrived in Laredo. Wade surprised them with a picnic by the creek, the same spot where he had proposed building a swimming hole for the hot summer days. I can't believe it's been a year, Emma mused as they sat on a blanket, watching the children play. James was asleep in a basket beside her, one tiny fist curled beside his cheek. Best year of my life, Wade said, reaching for her hand. Do you ever regret it? Taking a chance on a stranger's advertisement? Emma looked around at the beautiful land that was now her home, at the children playing happily, at the sleeping baby that was the physical embodiment of their love, and finally at the man beside her whose strength and kindness had become the foundation of her world. Not for a single moment, she answered truthfully. When I stepped off that stagecoach with 3 children and nowhere else to turn, I was terrified. But from the moment you knelt down to speak to Daniel, I started to hope. And every day since then has only confirmed what I began to suspect that very first day. And what's that? Wade asked, his eyes warm as they met hers. That sometimes the bravest decisions lead to the greatest happiness. Emma leaned in to kiss him, a kiss full of love and promise. That sometimes what seems like an ending is really just the beginning of something wonderful. Wade gathered her close, careful not to disturb the sleeping baby. "I love you, Emma Kincaid," he said against her hair. "You and our children, all four of them, are the greatest blessing I could have ever imagined." As they sat together in the Texas sunshine, surrounded by the family they had built together, Emma knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The mail-order bride had indeed arrived with 3 children, and the cowboy had declared their family complete. But the story that had begun with that meeting had grown into something far richer and more beautiful than either of them could have anticipated. They had found not just security or companionship, but true love, a love big enough to embrace 3 children who needed a father, strong enough to create a new life in James, and deep enough to sustain them through whatever challenges the future might bring. Their family was indeed complete, not because they wouldn't welcome more children if they came, but because they had found in each other everything their hearts had been seeking. For Wade, the lonely rancher who had yearned for a family to fill his empty house. For Emma, the desperate widow who had needed not just security, but a partner to share her burdens and her joys. And for the children who had found in Wade, the father figure they needed to help heal the wounds left by Richard's death. As the sun began to set over the Texas landscape, Wade helped Emma to her feet, lifting the sleeping James into his arms with a tenderness that still made her heart swell. "Time to head home," he said, calling to the older children. "Race you to the wagon." Daniel, Sarah, and Thomas took off running, their laughter floating back on the spring breeze. Wade offered Emma his free arm, and together they walked toward home, toward their future, toward the life they had built from courage, kindness, and love. A family, complete at last,